far as we know, it has not gotten onto a freeway. But it is extremely dangerous, not only for the passenger inside that car, but for people around this area as well. We saw him going up onto lawns. We're seeing, again, making these really scary moves in traffic, driving on the wrong side of the street often, and just refusing to pull over.
And he is continuing now eastbound on Firestone. You see some damage there to the front of the car. That was caused when he crashed through a chain link fence. An indication of the desperation with which he has chosen to conduct himself during this chase. And also an indicator that he's going to do whatever he can to try to get away. He's certainly been doing it so far. He's been driving on the wrong side of the road. We're going to see what he does here to try to get this person to move out of the way, with police in close pursuit. We believe the agency directly behind him is Southgate PD. They're in their city and pretty much staying within a fairly close radius of the city of Southgate.
Have you noticed, Mark, how quickly people have been getting out of the way? We've had so many pursuits recently. It seems like people just kind of have a sense for it now. If it's happening near them, they see a car coming up on them. Oh my gosh, okay.
There he's trying to get on the freeway.
Making an erratic move there to get onto the freeway. And this is the first time we believe that this individual is getting on the freeway, but seems to be having a tough time doing it. Getting on the road to get on the southbound 710 freeway.
Southbound 710 freeway at this time of day. I'm not too familiar with it at this time of day on a weekday, but you can bet, because it's an LA freeway, it's going to have a certain amount of traffic no matter where you are and what direction you're going, and that appears to be the case here. He's weaving in and out. There is some room for him to do so. You see him heading southbound on the 710 freeway now in Southgate. This, to our knowledge, as Michelle reported, is the first time we've seen him get on a freeway, so we don't know whether the CHP will get involved. We are sure they have been alerted already that this pursuit has now entered the freeway. That is their jurisdiction. That is their bailiwick. They know how to deal with things. They know how to close off-ramps and on-ramps in advance of a pursuit to keep traffic to a minimum. They know how to do those kind of round-robin things to stop traffic to the rear of a pursuit to keep people from coming alongside of it. They're going to do whatever they can to keep people away from this guy as he continues to try to evade police. The original want, we do not know, but we know appears to be some sort of domestic violence situation involved here because of reports that the driver is hitting his female passenger while he's been driving and evading police.
Driving now partly in that emergency lane, and in not too long, we'll have to make a choice whether to continue on the 710 or perhaps get on the 105 freeway as we continue to head south on the 710 freeway out of Southgate. And the first time that this has gotten onto the freeway just now, about a minute ago. We're now into the Linwood area, so we're very close to the 105 freeway. We're not sure exactly how many people are in that car. We do know that there is at least one female passenger. We're not sure if there's anyone in the back seat as well. It's hard to see with those blacked out windows. It's a silver Honda Accord, and it does have some front end damage from an earlier run-in with a chain link fence that the driver just smashed into and continued going while it obscured his vision. Drove about a half a block with that, moving that fence about a half a block, and then went up onto some lawns, and it was pretty crazy, and some very close calls going through stop signs and red lights and close encounters with pedestrians. And now we are on the freeway, which does bring down the danger level a bit, but still very dangerous nonetheless.
It's always dangerous, as we have seen so many times, of course, Michelle. It's always dangerous when these pursuits are happening. He is passing, I believe that might be the 91 freeway that he's passing under right now, or the 405. Oh, no, I think it's the 105 freeway he passed under. Anyway, he's now continuing southbound on the 710 through Linwood. Now heading into, he's definitely staying in Los Angeles County. The varying agencies around here, the Sheriff's Department patrols Linwood. If he continues, of course, on the 710 southbound, he's going to pass through Carson and into Long Beach. He'll be in Long Beach all the way till the freeway ends, of course, on that 710. Yeah, we're in Compton now, passing through there, and the traffic, as you see, is getting heavier. He's using the emergency lane to try to get around all that traffic.
Yeah, that works for now, but we'll see how that may not work for very long. You never know, there could be a car in the way, but we shall see. Coming up now on the 91 freeway, and we anticipate that this will continue on the 710, just given the fact that I'm not sure, well, actually, if you can get on the 405 or the 91 by staying in the far left of the freeway here, maybe you can. But for now, staying on the 710 southbound now in the Compton area, and the next major freeway will be the 405.
Right, and there's a good tight shot of that driver who has a passenger, reportedly female, in the passenger side, of course, and he has been hitting her during this pursuit. Now you saw him making that pretty erratic move to get to the far right, and now he's really accelerating, trying to get past those trucks. You know, this area, too, the 710, heading to the port of Long Beach, you're going to have a lot of truck traffic, a lot of big rigs that are on that freeway. He's getting off now. This is Alondra. This would be, this would take him, it's very close to Compton, very close to Carson. And now he's crossing all those lanes of traffic, trying to dig a left-hand turn there, getting on the freeway again, looks like it, trying to go in the opposite direction, it would appear. We're going to find out where he's heading.
We're going to try to find out if this is...
Yeah,
oh,
still on the 710.
South. Okay.
Still heading southbound.
Still heading southbound. So I was going to say, well, maybe he's going to head back to where this all started, but that's not the case. Heading southbound now, still on the 710 freeway. And this has been going on for close to a half an hour now. We're not sure what the initial want was, but we believe it started in the Southgate area, and it continues now on the 710 freeway. So far, they have not had any opportunities for pit maneuvers or spike strips, and perhaps they will soon. Now we're getting off. Where is this?
This is Long Beach. He's now entered in the city of Long Beach. He's now heading on to the eastbound 91 freeway.
Okay.
Which I think at this time of day is going to be pretty packed. I think it's going to be pretty heavy traffic that he is now heading into. Yeah, it looks like it. Look at the road to the right. He's going to be joining those drivers shortly. So he may have put himself into a bit of difficulty here. Of course, a determined driver is going to do what he can. We're going to see what he decides to do. There is an emergency lane. There are other options for him that are not in any way legal, but are physically possible. So he's, those sorts of options are available to somebody in this sort of desperation. We don't know what sparked the desperation. We don't know why this person is running from police. We don't know why police initially came in contact with him, but he is continuing to evade, continuing to take the 91 freeway now eastbound, passing up a lot of traffic. You can see the traffic this time of day. It's rush hour, and the freeways are packed. There aren't too many options for you at this time of day to try to get into an area that is clear of traffic. And whether there is or not, the police can keep up with you. This is still, we believe, Southgate PD that is directly behind him. So even though he's been on the freeway for some time, varying freeways between the 710 and now the 91, the CHP is not at this point the lead agency. They have not transferred leadership of the pursuit to the Highway Patrol. They are continuing to maintain it in the hands of this pursuing local police agency, which we believe is Southgate. Looks like he's getting off here. This is the 91 freeway, getting off maybe at Cherry.
Getting off at Cherry.
Oh,
so
no,
this is the North Long Beach area, Cherry Avenue.
He's not getting off.
Okay,
He didn't get off. It's one of those off ramps where you can change your mind on, and he elected to do exactly that.
Wow, look at this. Okay, back into this emergency lane, and we've seen this before, which is extremely dangerous. And we're getting word now that he is wanted for domestic violence, and the evidence against him is mounting, as we've heard reports that he was actually beating his passenger in the car while this pursuit was underway earlier. I'm not sure if that has continued on, but that was seen earlier by police. And we're not sure how this started, if there was a want out for him and they spotted the car or what. But we do know that the pursuit started in the Southgate area, and now it is in this area of Bellflower, Lakewood, on the 91 freeway.
All right, looks like another off-ramp that it looked like he was going to take and decided not to. You get the impression he was familiar with that kind of southeast LA County area of Southgate, Huntington Park, South LA, Compton, because he did get off. He was in the surface streets there and he kind of circled around that area. One wonders if he doesn't have that sort of familiarity here, and maybe that's why he's not taking the off-ramps, or hasn't thus far. It's like he's doing head fakes here. And now he is taking the off-ramp, Lakewood Boulevard, off the 91 freeway. We're going to see which direction he goes on Lakewood Boulevard. He's at the bottom of the off-ramp now. Absolutely stopped traffic. He's bulling his way, trying to...
for these drivers to go to get out of the way right now.
Wow.
Yes, very scary. Looks like he may have hit that red car, that Mini Cooper. Hard to tell, but coming up on really thick traffic and putting a lot of drivers in peril right now. The police following very closely throughout this pursuit. We haven't seen it go into tracking mode, and that is probably because the passenger is in extreme danger, so they want to stay right up on it. They do not want to go into tracking mode knowing that that passenger could be in extreme danger. Absolutely, and they're going to do what they can. They have to rescue somebody. They're going to have to rescue somebody at the end of this pursuit. However this thing ends, this is involves a rescue of someone who is in dire straits. Our signal's breaking up. We apologize for that. He is heading northbound on Lakewood Boulevard from the 91 freeway. And this is a business district, not residential. You're going to see a lot of traffic signals, and that one was green, which is good. We're hoping, for the sake of everyone, that he doesn't run any more red lights, because every time he does, of course, the potential for catastrophic accidents is very high. Yeah, we've already seen him run down a fence and carry that fence with him for at least a half a block, and then go over some people's lawns. Lots of driving on the wrong side of the road. Lots of going through red lights and stop signs. Really just complete disregard for the laws of the road. And continuing now on the surface streets, which, as we know, is very dangerous, much more so than being on the freeways, because you have the intersections that he's going through without slowing down or stopping. And, of course, the whole pedestrian thing comes into play, where people are up on the sidewalks or crossing the street and could be hit by this individual. Yeah, and the thing about it is he's going fast enough where somebody could be appearing out of nowhere, and there's just nothing he can do. He won't be able to stop. He won't be able to slow down. Might not even be able to swerve out of the way. Neither will they, when you're just minding your own business, not expecting something like this to come up on you, and then it suddenly does. Catastrophe can occur, and we've certainly seen that. We saw one last week where somebody in a minivan was broadsided, or an SUV was broadsided by a pursuit suspect. A woman was ended up being taken to the hospital in that case, and we're hoping that doesn't happen here. This is continuing now on in Lakewood, now going northbound. Okay, and very limited options as far as the police go, because it's on surface streets with traffic, so it's very hard to just suddenly put out a spike strip when the driver is making a lot of moves. It's hard to predict, track where this individual is heading. That is key for putting out a spike strip, is the ability to anticipate where this individual is going. But he's been making a lot of turns, and with all the other traffic on the road, it's really hard to bring this to a stop that way. Putting his arm out the window now, gesturing out the window, not sure what that was all about. Eastbound Rosecrans now, still in the Lakewood area. And if he were to get back on the freeway now, I believe it would be the 105. But right now, it continues now on the surface streets as we approach the 6 o'clock hour. And I'm joined now by David Ono with Eyewitness News at 6. Hi, Michelle. And as we continue to cover this pursuit, a very dangerous pursuit at that, it's been reiterated that this is a potential domestic violence suspect, as this person once again runs another red light. Very dangerous driving by this person. Obviously, it's somebody who is extremely angry, extremely heightened. There are witnesses saying that they have been seeing him beat the woman that is sitting next to him. There is a passenger, it's a female passenger in that car. This potentially a domestic violence case right here. And when we pushed in from Air 7, when we had the opportunity to actually see inside that car,
You could see the two people almost tangled with their arms. I don't know if he's holding her or she's holding him, and he seems to be extremely agitated, looking at her, looking back at the road, looking at her, back at the road. We've already noted the fact that he's driven on lawns, driven through chain link fences, very dangerous driving. And it does seem, though, that with his heightened sense of alert, anything can happen at this point. He's in Bellflower now. We're being told he's going about 40 miles an hour on surface streets. He's running into occasional traffic there. And Southgate police are right behind him. We haven't seen, there's a little bit of signal breakup there, but bear with us. We'll get through that as he continues through Bellflower. Ellen Leva joins me right now, as well as we prepare for Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock, 5:59, going into the next half hour, Ellen. And this is one of those pursuits that you just don't know how it's going to happen.
Yeah, very disturbing to watch, because we know that that woman already is in danger. Man wanted for domestic violence. It started about a half hour ago, and we've seen evidence that perhaps he has been striking the woman while he's driving. So obviously this woman is deeply in deep trouble with this man. Right,
and we probably need to say that we're going to handle this very carefully. Police will as well. We cover the news every day, and when it comes to these extremely violent acts, many of them do occur in situations that are domestic. Just this irate, this rage, this heightened sense, and they become very violent. Officers, obviously, they know that. They're going to try to handle this as best as they possibly can. And it would be great if they could somehow bring this to an end. But it is the afternoon. There's a tremendous amount of traffic out there. A pit maneuver, when they're around all that traffic, is out of the question. A spike strip, sometimes it's very difficult to get into a position to actually lay down a spike strip. So as they go into Norwalk from Bellflower, entering Norwalk now, officers are just content with kind of staying behind and watching for an opportunity and try to keep things as safe as possible.
And you can see him weaving in and out of traffic. He's been going on the emergency lane. He's been going the wrong side of the road. And a very delicate operation for these officers, because they want to stop their man, but they also want to protect the woman that is riding in that car. And hopefully, you know, she's wearing a seatbelt. We don't know what the situation is, but they have to be very cautious to protect the woman's life.
Right, and as there's been a lot of physical activity inside that car. We don't know if she's being hurt or not. Maybe they're just wrestling over, you know, the car. We just don't know. But there is a tremendous amount of concern. So there is a look at the suspect he's driving with. See how he was always looking over? They clearly are talking, maybe yelling, maybe arguing. See, constantly moving, moving, looking at her, looking at the road, looking at her, looking at the road. There's his arm waving around, too, as he holds on to the steering wheel. So watching that activity inside the car gives us some indication that this suspect doesn't appear to be willing to calm down and pull over. He is angry, he's agitated, and with that woman in the car, it really complicates things.
And right now we do have, we're joined by Bruce Thomas. He's a law enforcement expert, and thank you so much for joining us. Are you there, Bruce?
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
This is an obviously a very different type of situation in a pursuit with this woman in the car with this domestic violence suspect. What's the best way to handle this, and what's your take on this?
Well, it does present different challenges to law enforcement, because you have a suspect and a victim in the car. So you have to take that into account when the pursuit at the terminus, the end of the pursuit. What they're chasing is a felony domestic violence suspect who's agitated and angry.
Right. And so, okay, there he goes. Continue to drive erratically, very fast. Keep in mind, Southgate police are staying nearby. He's northeast on San Antonio, which is there in Norwalk, really accelerating right now. I don't know if there was a light there or a stop sign or what, but he is flying through there. So, and he's in a Honda, looks like a Honda Accord.
You can see her legs, too. They're up on the dashboard right now.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, pointing out that
maybe she's bracing herself or something.
Maybe so. Maybe so. She's you know, bracing herself for potential collision. She might be just scared, really scared. And Bruce, so this complication, you said there's a suspect and a victim inside the car. How does that change things when this comes to an end?
Well, what we're seeing from Air 7 HD is it seems like the female, the victim, as we'll call her, doesn't seem to really be afraid of the suspect to some degree. So there may be a little more to this domestic violence story than what was put out over the radio. As you can see from Air 7 HD, when they zoom in, she seems very complacent, very calm almost. With the problem, David, as you said, at the end of the pursuit is you're going to have to call the suspect out. They do have some sort of relationship, so how willing is she going to be to have her spouse, significant other, boyfriend to be taken into custody remains to be seen.
It's such a difficult situation with a domestic violence victim because you don't know the fear that she's feeling, how afraid she is of her partner there, and what she's going through, because a lot of times it's just fear that holds them back.
It's complicated, though, but also if he's a loved one of hers, you don't know if she's going to be an ally of his or an ally of police officers when this thing does come to an end. And you don't know if she's going to get in the way of them taking care of business and doing their jobs, or if she's going to welcome them to try to get him into custody and get him to calm down.
Yeah.
And we have seen people interject themselves into the law enforcement officers bringing the suspect into custody by holding on to him or basically saying, I love you and I want you to go to jail.
So there he is. He's flying through the streets of Norwalk, cutting corners.
I guess now it's Santa Fe Springs, 5 southbound Santa Fe Springs. And again, as I believe, he's getting back on that 5 southbound, and traffic is relatively light right here, but he has come into some places where he's come to a stop. Look at him just go across 6 lanes.
Yeah, he's coming across some traffic, and then he does a really dangerous swerve there. He's not even on a lane right now. Okay. And
whoa.
That was an illusion there because it was the overpass that we suddenly saw. It almost looked like there's a collision that's going to take place, but his driving is really erratic right now, Bruce.
Yeah, running into rush hour traffic, freeway traffic is back. It's heavy. At some point, South is going to have to turn this over to a bigger agency such as California Highway Patrol, as they just don't have the manpower. They are asking for mutual aid from LA County sheriffs to have their air step up and call the pursuit for the officers, for their safety.
Right. All right. We're having a little bit of an issue with Bruce's phone right now, but we got the gist of that, Bruce, that Southgate, this is becoming such a big pursuit that perhaps maybe they should turn it over to the CHP, but there is Southgate still behind him. However, every time he goes surface streets, then does that throw off the CHP, and who should take this over?
Yeah, ultimately, when you get off freeway, go onto the surface streets, they would turn it over to possibly the LA County sheriffs as they're in the Santa Fe Springs or area, and eventually sheriffs will jump in when requested only.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
he's going the wrong way on the street right now.
There you go.
He's jumped over. He's in oncoming lanes right there, and he navigated through it. Boy, but that is extremely dangerous. In fact, there is a center island there that he jumped over, and he was completely separated and going into oncoming traffic. Extremely dangerous there.
Right now he's on eastbound Alondra in Santa Fe Springs, and you can see he's got wide open roads right here, and that's probably good because we've seen him driving so close and weaving in and out of traffic and just disobeying all kinds of rules of the road.
Bruce, is a pit maneuver out of the question at this time?
The speeds are a little high for a pit maneuver, but this is the type of street you want to do it on. A nice wide open street. You've got a center median which protects the oncoming traffic. So ultimately, this is an ideal street to do it. However, the speeds are just a little high right now.
Right.
Maybe our desk can call him on another line so we get a better line. I'm sorry about the connection with Bruce Thomas's line there.
Yeah.
So can they do pit maneuvers when there are people in the passenger seat? Is that allowed?
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, you can do it with multiple people in the vehicle. Obviously, you're just endangering more people, including the officers.
Here we go. He's on the wrong side of the road again, Bruce. He's swerved over. There's a center island there. He's completely into oncoming traffic right now. Hopefully people are able to see him coming, and with police officers behind him with hopefully lights and sirens, at least close enough to warn people that something is up. Boy, but that's really dangerous. He's going to do it again here, it looks like. Yep. He's going into oncoming traffic right here. and just absolutely going against the law here. And look at that.
Oh, and now he's in Buena Park, so he's moving along.
Blatantly going against what the law on these streets.
That woman must be just having to close her eyes. I mean, can you imagine driving in that car as a passenger?
Yeah. I mean, there's no reaction time when you have oncoming traffic, and then they're not expecting somebody to be coming at them head on, and we've seen so many accidents that way, usually with somebody driving under the influence, or they're not aware that they're on the wrong side of the street. This guy is aware, and he's doing it anyway.
Yeah, and there he goes again, doing it once again, going into the median, and then hopefully he won't cross over. Yes, he's crossing over.
Yep, he is completely into oncoming traffic. Bruce, what do you do in a situation like this?
You know, at this point, the pursuit becomes so dangerous, the speed, the action of going up in traffic, that unless South really feels it's a necessary pursuit, they would possibly go into surveillance mode to de-escalate the situation. At this point, it's just getting very dangerous.
Right.
A very desperate man. This is going on for like 35 minutes now. A man wanted for domestic violence with someone in the car, a female, and they've been, you know, obviously a very stressful situation for that woman on board, too.
Yeah, is it possible then to go into tracking mode and just lay off of that when you know that there's a potential victim in the car? I mean, this is a very complex situation, Bruce.
Yes, it is. I mean, normally you don't have a victim and the suspect in the same vehicle. So what they're formulating is a plan to end this pursuit and take the suspect into custody, but also protect the victim's safety, too. So it just adds another complexity and further has the officers thinking about Plan B and Plan C.
Yeah, it's amazing how many different types of pursuits we've encountered through the years. But Michelle Tuzzi raised a good point. People are getting used to pursuits now in L.A., and they kind of can see it coming, or they hear the sirens. He's been getting a lot of leeway, people getting out of his way.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah.
But you never know. And traffic is tricky enough in Los Angeles, just navigating through safely and abiding by all the laws with all the people that are out there. So when a pursuit like this comes by, when he's not abiding by any traffic laws, when he's going way too fast, anything can happen. It could be extremely tragic, the end result of that kind of behavior. So here he is continuing to weave his way through some sticky points there in Buena Park, clearly at a light. Now he seems to be turning into a parking lot.
Yeah, because he was on southbound La Mirada. Now you're right, went into some sort of industrial complex or something.
Yeah, so we're going to watch him through as he goes through this parking lot, tries to weave his way out of there. He didn't feel comfortable sitting at that stop-and-go traffic, so here he is going to squeeze back onto the street. He at least slows down and looks before he does it, and then there's Southgate Police right behind him.
Now we're on Beach Boulevard, I believe, in La Mirada. Buena Park, excuse me, Buena Park. And continuing to drive, just at least he's on the right side of the road for once.
And look at all the traffic on the other side of the road. I mean, I don't know if he goes on the wrong side of the road with this kind of traffic, something awful certainly is going to happen. He's accelerating now, a multi-lane road right here, but he's accelerating, and you see the police car a few lengths behind him, but they're closing in, trying to stay fairly close to him, and hopefully close enough to warn people that this is coming, a dangerous situation is coming their way. But we haven't been able to look inside the car as much lately in his behavior. It's hard to see what his female passenger is doing, but that was an interesting shot earlier of her feet up on the dash. Maybe she's so comfortable that she does that, or maybe she is bracing for, he's on the road.
Okay, on the sidewalk, on the
sidewalk.
grass, really trying to get past this traffic, but wow.
Just blatant. It's incredible. Okay, so this is in Buena Park. He is literally, Artesia. So he's entered Artesia, driving on the grass and a sidewalk, now cutting through a parking lot. Let's see where this brings us.
Hopefully it's a dead end with any luck, but nope.
Found his way through. Now he's back on the road. We'll try to figure out which road this is. 2 lanes. He seems to be looking for a way to go. He's kind of right up against that double yellow. And Bruce, are you still with us? Okay, we don't have Bruce right now.
But this
I'm
is
sure.
Artesia Boulevard in Buena Park. It seems like he's done a couple circles. It did start in Southgate about 35, 40 minutes ago, and it went through Compton and southbound Alameda, Santa Fe.
A large space between him and the police cars. I don't see the Southgate police cars anywhere close to him right now. Maybe he lost them in that parking lot, or perhaps they're backing off just to get him to calm down. Here he is, very aggressive.
Dear.
That's into oncoming lanes. Now we don't see what's going on because he's going over an overpass.
There he is on the wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Dear. Look at this.
Look at this.
This is one of the
Completely in oncoming traffic. This is
one of the more dangerous pursuits we've seen as far as his driving and putting other people in danger.
southbound Knott Avenue. Southbound Knott. In Buena Park, Melissa? Okay. Southbound Knott Avenue in Buena Park. Boy, that is
we do
scary.
have
And
Bruce Thomas back. And
He's
Bruce,
back?
so you've been watching this.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, at some point, the watch commander and even the field supervisor involved in this pursuit are going to take into account the suspect's actions and say, you know what, this guy is endangering way too many lives. So you know what, let's back off. Let's go into a surveillance mode. The helicopter will track him, and we'll actually take him when he ends and slows down or crashes, unfortunately, and then we'll end this in a safe manner.
Oh, gosh. Now you can see that woman's legs in the passenger seat. Looked like she was sort of shaking a bit, but...
Yeah, I wonder if you're right, Ellen, if she is just bracing for impact because of his really erratic behavior, extremely dangerous driving. I'm sorry, Melissa's our producer. What did you say, Melissa? Did you give us a locator? And then we got
we had a little problem with our but we're still in Buena Park on the eastbound, I believe you said 91. And we're struggling to get that signal back. But what a dangerous pursuit. We've seen this guy going through all kinds of surface streets on the wrong side of the road with that woman in the car seat.
Bear with us. We're going to get that signal back. But extremely dangerous driving that we have been watching. I think we got that signal coming up right here. So we fixed it. So we're going to pop that up for you right now. Let's get our bearings here. There he is. He's about to take a right there at 9th and Beach in Buena Park. He is in that bluish Honda Accord. Okay, there's maybe you can see the passenger. You see that passenger on the right-hand side? Those are her legs that seem to be up and braced against the dash. And he is obviously driving right now. And in the past, we've seen them tangled up, him yelling at her. Okay, so he is behind. There he is. He's in the middle lane right there. That's the vehicle. You don't see a police car behind him because it looks like that they have pulled off trying to get him to calm down. His driving has been so incredibly dangerous that they might be just tracking him via a helicopter and trying to keep up with him. Dave Coons joins us right now. Dave's our car specialist. And Dave, what are your thoughts on this Honda that he's in?
Well, unfortunately for police, these are very reliable cars. That's an older model Honda Accord, and as people who own them will tell you, they tend to go forever. The key question is how much fuel is on board, as we always ask in these pursuits. But a pretty durable car. We saw him hopping curbs. He's been hitting things. It's still going. I don't see any tire damage. I don't know if they've done a spike strip. I wasn't watching the whole.
We don't. I don't think there is any car.
Did a sudden U-turn there.
Look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 police units behind him now. They're on Western in Buena Park. The police officers, the Southgate police, they are behind him again. So they've re-engaged this pursuit. There is a great shot of his passenger with her legs braced up against the dash. And we don't know if he has been violent to her inside that car, but this is a domestic violence suspect in this pursuit. And Dave, back to you. It does seem this car, granted, Hondas aren't known for their speed and their power, but this car can accelerate.
Well, you'd be surprised. That generation of Honda, if I can tell the current generation, you could get it with a V6 engine. They were actually pretty powerful. Also, where he is, surface streets, that car is very maneuverable. Does a lot of tight turning radius if you need it. I know they were on the freeway earlier, but it's an environment where this car, if the guy knows what he's doing and has driving skills, it can actually do pretty well. Front-wheel drive, if he takes corners too sharp, it can do what's known as understeer and kind of overshoot the turn a little bit. But it looks like he's under control and he's not going that fast. But so far, it looks like the car is holding up pretty well.
Right now, he's going on southbound Beach Boulevard, and let's see what he does after this
There he is.
overpass. There he is. You know, he has stopped at traffic a couple times, and that woman could have theoretically jumped out. So it makes you wonder, like, what's going on in her mind as well.
I mean, but maybe not. I mean, he might be holding her, or maybe it's just not enough time for her to get out of the car.
Yeah.
But Bruce Thomas is with us as well, and he is watching this behavior. Bruce, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, not only do you have a domestic violence case, whether it's a felony or a suspect, and I believe they're chasing a felony, but you possibly are adding kidnapping or false imprisonment charges too. So another higher grade felony. So that's why the pursuit's going to continue. It does look like he's calmed down a little bit, maybe not as agitated, but ultimately, if he stays in the same area, I would think that the mutual aid agencies would possibly look for a spike strip or maybe deploy a pit maneuver.
Right. So he's still in Buena Park, Bruce. So, yeah, that's a good sign. If he stays in Buena Park, maybe they can somehow anticipate where he's going to go and have somebody prepared to do a spike strip. There he is. He's
apparently
right
near Knott's Berry Farm right now.
Oh, okay. Knott's Berry Farm, okay.
But he was driving on the wrong side of the road again, but now he's back to his side.
So far, we don't believe he's hit any vehicles. We have seen him go up on the sidewalk, go through a chain link fence, go through yards, grass, and definitely what's most disturbing, he's been going on the absolute wrong side of the road into oncoming traffic.
Okay, Dave.
Just taking a look at the rear of this car now, I see a single exhaust pipe, which tells me it's not the V6 Accord. Kind of a trivial matter because it can still do the kind of speeds it needs to do, but it's not the hotter version, if you will, of that Accord, because it would have two tailpipes on it if it's a V6.
It's a 4-cylinder.
Yeah, so this is the 4-cylinder, probably an automatic transmission, and if it's been well maintained, it probably has the ability to keep going and going and going, and again, as we said earlier, depends on the fuel capacity.
Yeah, and I'm not the kind of commercial Honda would appreciate, but, you know, it does speak to those, those cars are so reliable.
But as cars go, go ahead, Bruce.
Interject this. I was going to say, it seems like the police or the chasing agency, whether it be Buena Park now or still Southgate, has backed off greatly from the suspect. At least the shots from Air 7 HD are showing that. So maybe they're realizing, you know what, let's not put as much pressure on the guy. Let's let him decompress a little bit.
So they just keep an eye on him, kind of track him, figure out where he is.
Yeah, and you've got mutual aid from the LA County Sheriff, so they've got their airship up who's tracking this guy also and calling out the streets he's on. So at this point, there's really not needed to get right up on top of him and kind of pressure him and, you know, and pressure the suspect who's already under a lot of pressure.
Right. Public safety is the number one here, and you don't want him to get so hyped up that he hurts or kills innocent victims in this situation. There he is in oncoming lanes. Again, it's tough to see, but he's behind that tree. There he is, sneaking through the light. And so they've backed off, but they will track him via the air. Of course, Bruce, it's a tough decision for law enforcement to make, because if that is, in fact, a victim with him in that car, she's in danger, and it puts them out of position to make a quick move on him if he does stop or something violent happens.
Yes, it does. You're 100% right on that, but as you said earlier, the most important thing in a pursuit is public safety. And even the safety of the suspect is important to law enforcement, because the last thing we want to do is have him crash into innocent people and hurt or kill somebody.
Right, as he's headed to a large intersection, kind of just barreling through.
Going against another light, running a red light there, but luckily he hasn't hit anybody yet. So we continue to watch as he is dealing with rush hour traffic, 6:22 in the evening in Buena Park. Oh, Anaheim. I'm correct. So he just entered into Anaheim.
Been in about 6 or 7 different jurisdictions there, but now back in Anaheim and driving in the median there, just trying to get past the traffic. And he's done whatever he can. He's gone on the sidewalks. He's gone on the emergency lane. Now driving in the median and just whatever he can do to get away. But
and he's sneaking over in that center median. There he is. He's in oncoming traffic again, sneaking back over to the right side of the road. As Dave Coons mentioned, we don't know how much gasoline he has in that car right now. He's really been accelerating, which is going to consume a lot of gas.
Well, the other thing he's got to be concerned about, if he's going to make these real wild moves, like, earlier he jumped up on that curb. If he starts hitting curbs with a front-wheel drive car, you have everything kind of buried in the front of the car. So you have the half shafts, you have all these what are called CV joints, and you can really damage the drive system of the car as opposed to a rear-wheel drive car. So that is a concern. If he hits the wrong curb the wrong way, he could instantly be disabled, which would do law enforcement a big favor, of course.
Certainly would.
Watch closely, though, because he is sneaking over that center divider, that double yellow line, every now and then, coming very close to oncoming traffic. There he is again. He's completely on the wrong side of the road yet again. Cross that double yellow. Now he's going to try to hopefully sneak back in. But, yep.
Oh, we've seen some really close calls,
really
just like
close.
the one we just saw right there.
Yeah, so then now he's back. It's tough to see. Yep, he's back over the double yellow, so he's back in the proper lanes. But, boy, that was a close one. And cars, if they're coming at you at a rapid rate of speed, then obviously the reaction time is cut in half and more so. So it's extremely dangerous as we continue to watch him. And now he's in that center.
And we haven't received any confirmation that there isn't anybody in the back seat because we can't see with those blacked out windows. But hopefully she's the only passenger.
Hopefully, but yeah, that's another good point. Bruce?
I was going to say, David, you're dealing with a suspect who is obviously very agitated and very intent on getting away, risking his life, the life of the person in the passenger seat. And we have seen pursuits like this that don't end well. And so the agency's chasing, they're really evaluating this.
Yeah, what's concerning, if he is wanted for domestic violence, obviously a man who's in distress and not in his right mind, and then this poor woman, I don't know her situation, but you got to feel for her situation and her part in this.
Terrible situation all the way around. Bruce, you've handled domestic violence issues in the past when it comes to law enforcement.
Whoa. Okay.
And he took he had to make an aggressive left turn. I don't know if that was planned, but he was trying to avoid a collision, it looked like. But Bruce, you've dealt with domestic violence as a member of law enforcement, and just like in the news business, we see many of them turn into extremely violent situations.
Yeah, domestic violence calls are probably the worst calls you can go on because you think you have an ally in the victim, but sometimes when you're dealing with the suspect, the spouse, boyfriend, significant other, and you take that person into custody, the victim all of a sudden becomes agitated and upset because you're possibly taking away their breadwinner, their spouse. And so it just becomes very volatile.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's difficult to watch. Go ahead, Dave.
The other thing is, this pursuit goes on. One thing that can really be affected on that car, even if the engine holds up, is the brakes. Brakes get overheated very easily, and even police vehicles, those which have very heavy-duty brakes, at the end of a pursuit, you can smell this horrible burning smell, like when you've gone down a really steep hill. This guy, if he keeps making these really hard maneuvers and keeps stopping hard, those, especially the front brakes, they're going to start overheating, and he's going to lose his braking power maybe when he needs it most.
That's a good point. I actually did a police pursuit academy with the Sheriff's Department, LA Sheriff's Department. I learned so much, but also I learned how inept I am at being behind the wheel. But one of the things that they do teach you is, what's interesting is you don't ride the brake. You either hit it hard and then you're off of it so it doesn't overheat.
That gives them a chance to cool, because when the friction material or the brake pads are up against the disc, if you're riding that, it never gives the disc a chance to cool. If you see auto racing that goes on at night, you see the brake disc glowing orange. They're not going to get that hot, but they're definitely going to do it. So police officers are trained to drive to let the brakes cool down. And if you notice, when you go down a mountain grade, they say, gear down, stay off the brakes because you'll overheat them. If this guy doesn't know what he's doing, he can be overheating these brakes, and what will happen is, when he needs to really, really use them for a hard stop, they're not going to have the bite.
Oh, dear. Well, that could be bad.
And then when he's accelerating or driving extremely dangerously and he goes to the brakes that are not there, then everybody loses in a situation like that. Bruce, driving that academy that I took with the Sheriff's Department was eye-opening. This is not easy work.
No, you went to the Sheriff's EVOC, or Emergency Vehicle Operations Center, and like you said, they teach the braking. It's emergency braking. It's hard braking. It's not ride the brakes for an extended period of time. Just because, as Dave said, the cars can overheat. So it's emergency braking. But they also teach you've got to think outside the box a little bit. Cut the apexes, get close enough to the vehicle, but not. And I'm sure, your adrenaline was probably on a scale of about 20, too.
I can only imagine. As we're watching this pursuit that's been going on for 45 minutes or so, and this domestic violence suspect with a female passenger in his seat, and we've had reports that he's been striking her, hitting her while he's driving.
By the way, we have about a minute left in this newscast.
There he goes on the wrong side.
Yeah, but we will continue to stream this on the web, abc7.com, and on our ABC7 Los Angeles app. We'll stay with this pursuit. Obviously, it's a very dangerous pursuit. And, of course, we'll be back at 7 o'clock on KDOC TV. If it's still going, we'll be on it, and we'll bring you the very latest. But we just want to let you know that we will continue to cover this pursuit. Even if we jump off the air, we'll be on digitally and continue to watch what happens here as they go through Garden Grove. And this suspect doesn't appear to want to give up just yet. So here we go. I'm trying to figure out what
Can
exactly.
we tell us what road it?
Yeah, what road
are
is
we
he
on right now?
Bruce, by the way,
Yeah.
that's a wide open street. We only have a couple of seconds, but is this, if he doesn't accelerate too much, could this be the perfect time to do a pit maneuver?
This is the perfect storm street to do it on. I'm surprised the PD is not a little more up on him to maybe force this issue. That's a perfect street.
Right.
Because we're looking, this is happening on Brookhurst Road, rather, in Garden Grove. We're going to continue to watch this. Join us on abc7.com and the ABC7 Los Angeles app.
We'll be back at 7 o'clock on KDOC TV. Our thanks to Bruce, Dave Coons. You've been a huge help. Air 7 HD. We are in Los Alamitos on the 22 freeway. He has been driving extremely dangerously. He has not slowed down one bit. We did watch him a few minutes ago wind his way through Huntington Beach, and then it was onto the 22 freeway where he has just passed through Garden Grove and now is in Los Alamitos. Let's show you some of the highlights of this pursuit. Take a look on the right-hand side of your screen. That is video from just a few minutes ago. You can see him blatantly going into oncoming traffic. He's been doing that dozens of times throughout this pursuit. Extremely dangerous behavior. A lot of cars we've seen swerving out of the way, and then he moves back over to the right lane. Okay, real quickly on the left-hand side, that's a live picture. He is exiting Seal Beach Boulevard. Seal Beach Boulevard, he is exiting right now. It looks like he was. Maybe he's moving back to the freeway. Look at that on the right. Also, that is video driving onto the sidewalk, onto the grass. Blatant disregard for pedestrians who might be on that sidewalk or in this community as he drives quite a ways on that and eventually into a parking lot where he wound his way back onto the street. So we've been watching him with that kind of behavior, extremely dangerous behavior. And keep in mind, earlier in this pursuit, he was literally wrestling with his victim who was inside the car. She is in the passenger seat right next to him, watching her as she has her legs up. And then here he is. Look how fast he is moving. He is even swerving. He swerves into oncoming traffic yet again, almost loses the back end of his vehicle, which is a Honda sedan, an Accord, a 4-cylinder is what we believe. It's a front-wheel drive car. And we don't know, obviously, how much gas he has, but it's a vehicle that can go for a very long time. And this pursuit is going into about an hour and a half right now. Again, on the left-hand side, that's a live picture. On the right-hand side, that is video of some of his more dangerous behavior during this pursuit. Southgate PD has been in pursuit of him through most of this. As we go back to this live picture of him on the 22 freeway, always moving to the right-hand lane, almost faking like he's going to get off, and then he pulls back onto the freeway. We're watching him closely here. So let's see what he does. Yep, he does it again, where it looked like he was going to exit, and then he moves over. Keep in mind, again, the domestic violence victim is sitting in the vehicle right next to him. I believe we have another video. I'm not sure if we're prepared to show it to you. Yes, it is. Look closely now. That is the victim. You can see her legs propped up on the dash. And watch closely. Look at her hands. She's holding her cell phone. It looks like she's actually texting during this pursuit. It did appear that there was some sort of wrestling, punching, something was going on in the early parts of this pursuit. Now, at least we could see her. She's moving. She's looking at her phone. Her legs are up. We don't know if that's because she's bracing for potential impact or not, but that was video that was taken just a few minutes ago, just before we hit this newscast at 7 o'clock. More video there on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, he continues to roll down the 22 freeway. This time he is exiting the 22 freeway. We'll try to get you where he's exiting in just a second. But first, I want to bring in Bruce Thomas. 605 North Transition. Okay, so that's, if you're familiar with that area of Orange County, 605 North Transition. So about to hop onto the 605 from the 22 freeway. Bruce Thomas, our law enforcement expert, has been on the phone with us watching this pursuit. And Bruce, it's still going.
Yeah, it's still going, and what you've seen is the handoff from the local police to the California Highway Patrol as it's moved to the freeway. The CHP has a lot more assets and resources to continue this pursuit for at least the duration of this.
Okay, so you were saying during the 6 o'clock hour that would probably be a good move to get more resources on this pursuit because it is so dangerous. So this longest time we saw Southgate in pursuit throughout many communities, both on and off the freeway, but finally they've relinquished. CHP is now in pursuit. Does that change how this pursuit goes?
It does to a degree. The other thing which we haven't talked about was the drain on the local police department's resources. Southgate has a finite number of cars out, and they're outside their area. So obviously that hurts them. But the fact that he's on a freeway now, it's a more controlled environment. He doesn't seem to be driving as erratic as he was on the city streets to get away. Speeds can be increased or decreased, but the safety of everybody involved is a lot better on the freeway.
Right, that's a good point. So the freeway does seem to be wide open right now, so less potential people that he could run into. We understand that he is now getting into Long Beach, so he's on the 605 freeway going north. hitting Long Beach right now. So Long Beach, as CHP is in pursuit. And yes, Bruce, I did notice his behavior was not as erratic. It does seem like he's settling down a bit. Granted, not giving up by any means, still going at a high rate of speed, as you could tell as he flies by these other vehicles. But the good thing is he's on the freeway. He's not in those very tight, confining surface streets right now where some danger could pop out of nowhere. He's on the freeway where people can actually see him, and they could see the police or the CHP vehicles right behind him, sirens and lights on, and that gives people some warning.
Yeah, it does. When you went to EVOC, one of the things they talked about is the lights and sirens running code 3 or a pursuit. People don't hear the siren, but they'll see the lights. And on the freeway, it's a very controlled environment, so that does increase the safety of the motorists.
So that folks won't be surprised and hopefully get out of the way. He did seem to get very tense earlier when he would find himself into traffic. He got very nervous at lights that were stacked up, feeling the need to get out of there. That's when it gets a little bit tricky. Here on the 605, wide open right now as he seems to not really know where he's going because, Bruce, he's been through many different communities. And from what I understand, Long Beach, he's leaving Long Beach. He's getting, Lakewood now. He's approaching Lakewood on the 605 northbound.
Yeah, it almost appears he's headed back to the Southgate area to some degree.
Yeah, perhaps so, which we often see when it comes to these suspects. You know, there's a lot of concern about that victim in his vehicle. So for our new viewers there that are joining us here on KDOC TV at 7 o'clock, we have been watching this since the 5 o'clock hour of Eyewitness News. And in the early parts of this pursuit, it was extremely dangerous. His driving was erratic, but also he was heightened. He was clearly very angry. He was turning and yelling at the woman next to him. And often, some of the reports say that they actually saw him beating her in that seat. Now, we showed you that video. We were concerned about her consciousness. She clearly is conscious. She's got her feet propped up on the dash. She's got her phone in her hand. She looks like she is texting. So she is physically present right now. And there's that video again. So you see her legs are up. But if you notice, if you look closely, you can see her phone sticking out. She's holding it with both her hands, and it appears she's texting. So she at least is conscious and in that car, and they're not wrestling right now. There he is waving. I'm not sure what he's waving at, but we were very concerned about her safety, Bruce. But nevertheless, her mere presence in that car when this thing does come to an end complicates things.
Yes, it does. But like you've just said, everything seems to be a little calmer in the vehicle. Maybe she's texting relatives or people to say, look, we want to end this. He wants to give up. He realizes he made a mistake. How do we do this? So hopefully they're in touch with law enforcement and they can put an end to this in a safe manner. I mean, his speeds are, 69, 70 miles an hour. So he's definitely calmed down a lot.
Good point. As they enter Cerritos right now, Cerritos off the 605 freeway, that's where they are. The video on your right is just that video. The shot on your left is a live picture from Air 7. And Bruce, you've seen a lot of these pursuits. Often that might be the evolution of these pursuits. They start extremely angry, then they start to settle down, then they start thinking about negotiating their way out of it and bringing this thing to a peaceful conclusion. Perhaps, if you're a betting man, maybe that's the direction we're headed.
Yeah, most of the violence calls, when you go to those or they start off, especially when Southgate rolled to this, there was probably a lot of emotion, a lot of anxiety by the suspect. She's trying to maybe calm him down. They get in the car. He's still agitated, maybe hitting her in the car like we saw. And at this point now he realizes, okay, I've calmed down. I am going to go to jail. Let's negotiate this. But the biggest issue is going to be at the end of the pursuit, how much she is not going to get involved in them taking him into custody.
Right. We had been talking about that during the 6 o'clock hour. That's a very complex part of being a law enforcement officer, wondering in these domestic violence situations, the victim obviously needs their help, but sometimes things turn quickly when you start taking her loved one into custody and they suddenly turn on you. And that potentially could happen here.
Yeah, David, as you know, this could be the breadwinner. And now he's not going to be the breadwinner right now. And so maybe there's kids involved. So it becomes a very complex issue.
Right. Okay, so I understand they're going about 70 miles an hour. They're in Norwalk right now on the 605 freeway in Norwalk as this pursuit continues to roll down. But luckily, we haven't seen a really dangerous maneuver in a few minutes now. And earlier, we have to tell you, it looked extremely bleak as he continued to insist on driving on the wrong side of the road with oncoming traffic, fly through red lights, and by fly through them, it was awfully close in a couple of situations. One, he almost lost his back end. He was moving so quickly and changing lanes so quickly. A lot of people have swerved out of the way. He did hit a fence. He dragged that fence. A bike rider had to jump out of the way from getting hit. But from what we understand, we at least have not seen him hit any vehicles that he's come very close to. At least we haven't seen that yet. So as he stays on this freeway, he seems to be moving his way over to the right-hand side, and CHP is right on him. It's a waiting game for them, isn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, at this point, CHP is just going to, they're just going to follow. They're going to stay in the code-free pursuit mode because you do have a felony suspect. But it's just kind of wait and see. As they get through different areas of the CHP, they'll hand it off to the next station, so to speak, and they're just going to follow at this point.
All right, we are talking to Bruce Thomas on the phone, our law enforcement expert, as we continue to watch this domestic violence suspect in pursuit. He just transitioned to the 105 freeway. Stay with us. We're going to stay on top of this. We'll be right back. All right, we want to take you back to that pursuit. We are on the 105 West in Downey right now. The car that's being pursued is the one in the far left lane. You can see him moving through traffic. It is a Honda Accord, four-door, kind of a silver blue. That's it right there. Older model Honda, but it's a peppy car. This guy has been driving it like crazy, accelerating, taking very tight turns. From Dave Coons, he tells us that it is an older model with a four-cylinder, but don't let that fool you. It's a very good car and has a durability, and it can go for a very long time. And we have been watching this pursuit for getting close to 2 hours now. Again, on the 105 freeway, westbound, going through Downey. Inside that vehicle, not only the suspect, who is a domestic violence, a felony suspect, but also his victim, a woman who's sitting in the passenger seat right next to him, and the CHP is right behind. Most of this pursuit, during most of it, was Southgate, so they followed him from freeway to community in different communities, but the CHP took it over, and now they're staying close behind him, watching his movement. In the meantime, Bruce Thomas joins us right now, our law enforcement expert, to help me analyze what's going on. Bruce, they're content in just letting this guy go?
Run the helicopter. You cannot outrun the radio. So at this point, we're going to stay behind him. We're going to follow him. At some point, hopefully the suspect gets tired of this game, pulls over, and gives up. I mean, he's ultimately going to go to jail, and in his mind, hopefully he can rationalize that. And
there's a really good chance that they already know who this guy is. It's not like he's going to be able to avoid them. Even if, let's say, he got away today, they're going to still get him.
Yeah, I mean, they've run the license plate. They've got information, what they call 1028, 1029 on the vehicle, which is the registered owner, the vehicle, wants, warrants. They know who this guy is. He's not going anywhere. If he gets away tonight, you know what? They'll get him tomorrow at that point. The other thing, too, is the officers are now in a much calmer mode because CHP practices the freeway pursuits. So their stress level's down also. They're just kind of sitting back, following them.
Right, and then the freeway, as you could see, it's pretty wide open, which is fantastic and also very rare, but he is just kind of going on down the freeway. He's so far not endangering anybody at this point. He is going relatively fast, but not horribly, and he's not making erratic movement going from lane to lane and trying to do a quick lane change or get off. So that's all good because, as we pointed out at 6 o'clock, public safety is of the utmost concern, and keeping this guy from hurting himself or anybody else is the ultimate for law enforcement.
Yeah, that's a big part of this whole thing. The last thing an officer wants to do is hurt somebody as an innocent third party. And in this case, he's on the freeway. He's not really endangering anybody, so CHP is going to sit back and just follow him.
Okay, so we are in Paramount right now. Paramount, most of this has been going on in Orange County, but he headed north. Now he's on the 105 westbound right now in Paramount. And we don't know if he knows where he's going because he's been going all over the place. But luckily, he's staying off the surface streets, at least as of now. And often, when we see somebody on the freeway, at least it puts them in a position where they're not making so many erratic turns and maneuvers to where maybe they can start thinking and even talking to somebody about getting out of this situation.
Right, David, as you talked about and we saw in the earlier news broadcast, his driving was so dangerous and so erratic on the wrong side of the road at high rates of speed, sudden lane changes. On the freeway, you don't have that, so that makes the de-escalation factor of this pursuit greatly enhanced.
Okay, so now we are running into traffic, and you're starting to see a little bit of nervousness inside of this driver and his behavior. So he maneuvered all the way to the right-hand side. He is driving on the shoulder of the road. This is, again, the 105 westbound. I believe he's still in Linwood, but I'll get you an update on that in just a second. CHP right behind him there as he tries to find his way through traffic. And we've noticed his behavior before when it comes to traffic. He seems to get very nervous about that, especially when he's sitting at a red light. He doesn't seem to have the patience to sit there. He's trying to always squeeze his way through instead of waiting for the traffic to go through. Quite often, Bruce, this is an interesting point. Will law enforcement try to make a move at a red light?
Ideally, that is a great place to do it. You have to have the number of vehicles there. You have to be able to box them in. And then you become an officer safety issue, crossfires, that kind of thing. So ideally, it's a good location to do it. But ultimately, that would be done with a Bearcat or an armored vehicle to block him in.
Okay. So it's a tricky situation, one of many that law enforcement has to deal with when you deal with situations where you're around a lot of other people, a lot of civilians, especially at dead stop traffic where they can't go anywhere either, and they can't get out of harm's way if the violence breaks out.
We had a pursuit a couple weeks ago where they had to rescue the people in the vehicles that were trapped, and so that becomes another major factor, another concern for the officers.
Okay, you see the driver's erratic behavior. His window, he rolled the window down. He was waving out and yelling something out of his window. We don't know at whom. We don't know if it's people around him. Perhaps that's a helicopter. Maybe it's just at our helicopter. We don't know. But that's some of the erratic behavior that we have seen in him. He was highly irate earlier where he was yelling at the woman who was sitting next to him. You haven't been able to see her in this pursuit because of the angle that we've been dealing with. But she is there. And at least they're not grappling like they were earlier, which was really scary. And we didn't know if she was truly in danger or not. So what we understand now, Long Beach Boulevard, he's just exited Long Beach Boulevard. If you're familiar with this area, just off the 105 westbound. So let's see what happens here. This is when it can get tricky, when he's hitting surface streets. And he takes this exit, and he's immediately upon some traffic. Let's see what he does. Yep, he tries to squeeze his way through, Bruce, so he still gets very nervous here.
Yeah, and what you're seeing, David, is Highway Patrol has been in contact with LA County Sheriff's Century Station in this area to let them know, hey, the pursuit's coming your way. And obviously what the sheriffs will do are kind of flood that area with units and monitor it from afar, so when this pursuit does end or he does foot bail, they're in the area to pursue him.
Okay, excuse my ignorance, but who is that behind him right now? Was that a sheriff's? Is that sheriff's behind him now, or is that still CHP?
It looked like CHP is right behind him again. Looks like they just transitioned. In that area, CHP patrols the unincorporated county areas.
Okay, so he's going to pull into a parking lot here. Brace yourself. There is a pedestrian there on the sidewalk, probably has no idea what's going on here. Now he's noticing police cars. He's going to wind his way through this parking lot. He's done that a number of times during this pursuit. Okay, he's on Imperial Highway. I'm sorry, again, this Linwood, Michelle. Michelle's my producer in the booth.
Yeah, he's in the Linwood
northbound
area, the unincorporated Firestone area.
Okay. Okay, so if anybody's aware of that, you know, we see it often, the Firestone Mall. So the Firestone area is where he is. He's in Linwood, northbound. Did you say Long Beach, Michelle? Long Beach Boulevard in Linwood. Long Beach Boulevard
and
in...
he's close to Southgate, too, where this whole thing started, so he might be working his way back home.
Yeah, so that might be, and we see it almost like clockwork when it comes to these pursuits. Suspects aren't comfortable in an environment that they aren't familiar with, so they inevitably find their way back home, and that's where this pursuit began, in Southgate. So I'm not sure if we know the specifics on why it began, but we do know domestic violence was part of it, and his behavior inside the car with his victim was very alarming, and that was the early part of this pursuit. But it began in Southgate.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt, but another factor in this is he might be working his way back to the original start of this at the residence or apartment. Southgate PD could be waiting for him there, and he's negotiated that.
Oh, okay. So maybe there's a purpose besides the fact that he's just trying to get back into familiar territory. But this is what they often do, is negotiate where he's going to give up, and perhaps quite often they want to do it in front of their family.
Yeah, because they know that nothing is going to happen to them. And obviously the police don't want to use force, deadly force. Maybe they'll have to use less lethal, pepper balls, things like that, to take him into custody. But ultimately, he's making a statement to his family, and obviously the police will honor that request to some degree.
Right. And then also keep in mind, there is a woman sitting next to him. Perhaps her family is there as well, or they're all connected. We don't know, but maybe there's support for her as well, and he might be doing her a favor as well. We don't know. This is all speculation. We hope it goes down safely and calmly, and violence does not break out. But I have to tell you, they have to be prepared for anything, especially in the early parts of this pursuit. It seems so dangerous that it is almost remarkable that nothing bad has happened. Again, we're going to show you some of the highlights from earlier, and that is him on the right-hand side. That's video that was taken, and that shows you his behavior going into oncoming lanes. He even has an island between him, so he can't even jump over on the right side of the road if he wanted to. But lots of that, lots of oncoming traffic. He never hit anybody, but it was extremely scary when he kept on doing that, and he kept doing it at a high rate of speed. And again, we're going to continue to watch. There he is on the sidewalk, on the grass, and he did that a number of times, as well as when he hit a fence, and he dragged that fence, a good portion of it, from an athletic field, dragged that several feet. So that's the behavior that we're talking about, where he was driving erratically, he was doing things in the car, seemed to be hitting the woman sitting next to him, and that was extremely stressful for everybody to watch. Okay. Florence area, Long Beach Boulevard. So that's the latest. He's in the Florence area right now. Continue to watch him as he flies through these, and as you'll notice the lane he's in oncoming traffic again, but at least he's going a little bit slower than when we saw him earlier. I imagine CHP is still right behind him, so hopefully people will see that and know that something is coming their way. So winding his way down Long Beach Boulevard in the Florence area. Let's watch and continue to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's not driving as dangerously as he was before. Yes, he's in oncoming traffic, but his speeds seem to be very much slower.
Okay, he just crossed Broadway there, Bruce. So on Long Beach Boulevard still, just crossing Broadway in the Florence area. So if you're familiar with that's where he is. And yeah,
David, if he makes a right turn and starts going east, I would say he's going back to Southgate.
Okay. So we'll continue to watch and see what he does here. But you're right, his driving is so much slower. He seems to be in a bit more control, even though he's still breaking the law at times. But he's not outrageously fast right now. So
just as a minor fact for information for the viewers, they will go back and pull the tapes on this pursuit, and they will charge him with every single violation.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Good. So, yeah, you'd hope they would do that just to make people accountable. And let them know that they cannot get away with all these actions just because the
well,
pursuit
there's
is
supposed
over.
to be a mandatory 2-year prison sentence for pursuits. I'd like to follow up on that to see if it's still in effect, but that was something that the law changed.
Okay.
As a deterrent to this.
Yes, and we do need deterrence, that's for sure. So he took a quick left-hand turn. That was off of Pacific Boulevard he was on. A quick left-hand turn. Huntington Park is where he is right now. Huntington Park on Walnut. Huntington Park on Walnut. This is where it gets a little bit scary. It's obviously a very narrow street. Look at all the cars and the people that are out, too. I wonder if he's familiar with this area, but people, I think, are very aware of this pursuit. So you can see them walking out and looking at this pursuit, so they're aware of it. Uh-oh. I just saw the passenger door open. Maybe he's close to home. Maybe she's trying to get out. But did you see the passenger door open just quickly, and then it closed when he was slowing down there?
Yeah, I think he's definitely getting closer to primary residence or friendly territory, as they call it. You were talking about people coming out watching this. Well, social media is a very powerful tool, and I'm sure people are watching this on Twitter, seeing the 87 app, so they're aware of where it is.
The door opened again. The passenger door is open. Let's see what's happening. He stopped abruptly. Did she get out? No, she did not. But the door we've seen opening a number of times. And good point about social media. So social media, as well as television, it's keeping people abreast of this pursuit. And my producer now tells me, Bruce, that this is very close to where this thing started.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he heads back home, he stops, she gets out of the car, goes to her loved ones, and they do a felony stop and take this guy into custody.
Okay, so maybe that's why the door keeps opening. Maybe there's a bit of an argument going on and when she can and can't get out of that vehicle. She clearly wants to get out. That's why the door is opening. I'm not sure if he's letting her.
I think you're 100% right on that.
Yeah, so we've seen it repeatedly open. He seems to accelerate and then slow down, accelerate and slow down. There seems to be some indecision here. Okay, the car stopped, but the door didn't open. She didn't get out. It would make things so much easier if she gets out, right, Bruce?
Oh, definitely, because now you don't have a two-pronged problem. You have just a one-pronged problem, as they say. You have to deal with a suspect, not with a victim and a suspect. Right. A victim who may not comply.
Right. Okay, so you see all the people out on the street. Some have their cell phones out. They're very much aware that this pursuit is going down the street. It does seem that they do know where they are right now, and now it's just a matter of deciding what to do at this point. Back to their home turf or their home territory, familiar. Maybe they just couldn't figure out what to do and how. Her feet are still up on the dash there. You could get a good shot of the victim. She's in the passenger seat. Those are her legs. That's the way she's kept them for the last 2 hours, basically braced up against that dash. We don't know if she's bracing for impact or maybe that's just the way she wants to sit at this point, but that's her. A shot of the victim as well. And then he there is driving. You can see his hands on the steering wheel. So tinted windows, it's tough to kind of look in from the side. Earlier in the afternoon, we had a pretty good shot. So we don't know if there's some kind of negotiating going on between the two of them right now. But let's continue to watch and see what they do. Oh, he's got his window down now.
You know, David, it's just interesting how she doesn't seem as very frantic as she was earlier.
Oh, she's waving.
She seems calm.
You're right. Look at that. She's waving. But I don't know. I guess we can't. Northbound Long Beach Boulevard is where they are. Northbound. Okay, in Southgate. So they're in Southgate on northbound Long Beach Boulevard. Yeah, so, but we can't jump to conclusions either, but that is interesting. Her window is down. She's waving, but could she be waving for help or she waving?
You know, I think we're going to go with the other avenue on this, that she's in friendly territory and maybe they're making, I hate to say it, like a victory lap almost.
Right. Maybe she does. Maybe she feels that she's in trouble as well. We don't know. But
yeah,
I think there's a lot to figure out on what has been happening here and what the situation is. But they are calling this a domestic violence suspect. And the assumption is the victim is with him in that vehicle. But you've been seeing, just as well as we have, some of the bizarre behavior of these two. Both the windows are now down, so they seem to be willing to greet the people that are on the streets. Perhaps it's a kind of a Pacific Boulevard is Michelle, is that correct? They're on Pacific? Okay, Long Beach turns into Pacific Boulevard, so they're now on Pacific Boulevard in Southgate.
Yeah, and what you're seeing, David, from Air 7 HD is you're seeing sheriff's units in the area. So they're blocking intersections. They're trying to control this guy to see exactly where he is going to go.
Let's say hypothetically, there's a negotiation going on right now, and they're hoping this guy pulls into some place that he's familiar with and eventually gives up. Do they try? Are they fighting?
Uh-oh. All right.
You know, it looks like there's some agitation going on.
Yeah, and then maybe she was trying to get control of the car or something, but there's something going on in the car, so they're
getting more and more agitated again. Yeah, I did see some physicality going on inside of there. Then he swerved quickly. Maybe he swerved because he wanted to, or maybe she's trying to get control of the car. We don't know.
And you know, David, that's another, part of this equation is the more she gets agitated toward him, the more agitated he gets and starts doing stuff which maybe we as law enforcement don't want to see happen.
Yeah. All right. This is kind of scary when you see somebody moving around inside the car like that. So he clearly is yelling at her. He's moving around a lot more. This is starting to remind us of their behavior near the beginning of this pursuit when it would look really dangerous inside that vehicle. So they seem to be getting more and more agitated. Maybe she did want to get out of the vehicle and he didn't let her. Maybe they did negotiate to stop this and he didn't do it. And he's continuing to roll through, and he's just sitting there with some indecision right now, and she's tired of it.
Yeah, she could be yelling at him, getting him amped up, and now he's back on surface streets, and you see his driving has become a little bit erratic again.
Okay, so they're in Huntington Park, from what we understand. And, yeah, with those windows down, we get a much clearer shot of what's going on in there. He seems to be moving around a whole lot. He's moving stuff. He's doing a lot of that, grabbing something from down below and throwing it into the back seat. He's constantly turning to her and talking to her or yelling at her, and that's exactly what he was doing earlier on. Now he's rolled the window up, so we can't see him as well.
Yeah, and that presents another issue for law enforcement with tinted windows. They don't have the visual to look in the vehicle on a safety aspect of this. All they can see is through the front window, and on a felony stop, you're not facing the vehicle. You're controlling it from behind.
Mm-hmm. Right. So just one more of the many obstacles that law enforcement has been dealing with and is going to have to deal with when it comes to this situation. So they have, they've gone beyond Southgate. They're in Huntington Park right now, moving into Vernon. So maybe he decided not to give up. Maybe he's decided to let this go a little bit longer while he thinks this through, although there's really not much to think about, but maybe in his standpoint, he thinks there is.
Yeah, he's going to jail ultimately. The only thing, the question is now is he going to go jail at 8 o'clock or is he going to go jail at 9?
Right. And a lot of concern then also about his state of mind when this thing comes to an end. We don't know if he's armed or not. We personally don't know his background, but law enforcement may have a good idea of who this person is. Right, Bruce?
Yeah, they do. They've worked him up. They've run him to see how much information as they can get. And if she's been in contact with law enforcement, those are questions they're asking. And what they've found is, and I've seen in my experiences, these people may have warrants, he may be on probation or parole, and this may be what puts him back into jail, and so he's prolonging it.
Right. He's at that I don't have anything to lose position, perhaps, which makes it especially
which for
scary.
The general public is not a good position.
Right. That's terrible. And then there you could see, I guess is that a CHP officer behind him?
Yeah, I think CHP is still in pursuit as they're in a lot of the unincorporated areas, and CHP has not relinquished it to the local agency. Yeah, it's still CHP.
Okay, so he does seem to be a little bit closer to the car. Could they be considering a pit maneuver, or is this still too fast?
You know, the speed, I'm guessing, is probably around the 40 mark. It may be a little high, but I think they're going to put some pressure and end this. I think they're done. He looks like he's slowing down a little bit. We may see a pit maneuver very shortly.
Okay, he's on northbound Santa Fe right now. It's a little bit more of a narrow street, but as you'll notice, it doesn't seem to have as much traffic. That's a good sign, but he is moving. There's a little bit of traffic there, but he does seem to be accelerating right now. So it's complex. We don't know now the situation when it comes to the victim next to him. Maybe he's decided to completely blow off the whole idea of giving up. And now, I'm sorry, Michelle, where are they again? Moving into the city of Los Angeles. It looks like he was considering a pit maneuver there.
Yeah, he was getting close enough to do it, and now you see an SUV coming in, which has the special bumpers to do a pit. So I think very shortly we're going to see it. However, the speeds are increasing. That does present a problem.
Right. And then this guy probably knows what they're trying to do, so he's going to keep his speeds up.
Unfortunately, most bad guys do know police procedures to some degree, so he may just prolonging this. But this is an ideal street to do it. It's nice and wide. However, there are some oncoming traffic, and that does present a safety issue.
Right, but it's a dangerous maneuver, but we've seen it work before. And when it comes to getting this over with or letting it go on and potentially harm innocent people, oh, here we go. He's moving in just a little bit there, and he backs off. So again, they are on northbound Santa Fe. They've entered Los Angeles right now. Does that change any aspects?
It only just because of the traffic, but you are in an industrial area, so as we get closer to the evening, the area is kind of quiet. But I can guarantee you the CHP has been given permission by their watch commander to deploy the pit maneuver when they see applicable.
Okay, so they crossed Olympic from Santa Fe. They left turn on Olympic. What is this here? We're trying to figure out what's up. All right, he's getting on the freeway. It almost looked like he was going to do it there, Bruce, but I guess he decided not to. Yeah,
only because the oncoming cars there and spin this guy out. Right there would be a perfect place to do it.
Right, okay. 10 East is from what we understand.
I think we're going to, I thought we were going to see it right there.
Boy, that's scary business.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is you're on a freeway on-ramp, so it's elevated.
Right.
So if you were, this car potentially could crash through the barrier and fall to the ground, and, now you've got a bigger mess.
Right, and that might be why they decided not to do it. But, boy, you know that they were thinking about it. So let's watch what he does.
The officer was definitely going to do it, and I really thought he was going to pull the trigger on that.
Right. So as he gets further away from home, does this thing get more dangerous?
Well, now we've seen him try to go home, but he's changed his mind, so he really has the mindset of getting away now. I don't know where he's going. It looks like he's still northbound in the city of L.A. Now you're going to have LAPD also involved as the sheriffs have dropped off. So, yeah, this does get a little more complex. Okay.
East L.A. overchanges where he is right now. Let's figure out. He just split over there to the right. CHP moving in again. But there are other folks on the road. He's heading into East Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, and you're not going to see a pit maneuver on the freeway unless they can control traffic.
Yeah. So far, from what we understand, we haven't seen any spike strips either. So 5 South is where he's going right now, Bruce. In East Los Angeles, he's heading to the 5 South.
Yeah, because of all the traffic on the freeway, you're not going to see spike strips or the pit maneuver. But CHP is going to get behind him and let him know, hey, we're here. We're not going anywhere. So why don't you just pull over and give up?
Right. Okay, so there's traffic ahead is what we're hearing. So he's going to start running into traffic. That's when he seems to get a little bit nervous. On the 5 freeway south right now, he's East L.A. is where he is, 5 freeway south. Look for some traffic, and we'll watch his behavior. I think is his window down again? His window is down again, so you can see the driver. You can't see the passenger who is next to him, but you can at least see the driver. The sun is starting to set, so visibility might be a little bit more tricky as well. I guess that changed things for law enforcement, doesn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, as you get into nightfall, vision, field of vision becomes diminished, so that's when you have the spotlights, the night sun from the helicopter, which is still following this. Those are tools that the officers will have to employ. All right, there's a really tricky maneuver there. He's trying to weave his way through big 18-wheelers as well as other traffic. A big lane change there, and then multiple lane change there. He seems to think he can avoid or get rid of the CHP, but it's doubtful. So there he is on the far right-hand side. He seems to be exiting the freeway, and we'll give us 2 seconds here, and we'll tell you exactly where they are. But just exited the freeway, back onto surface streets into oncoming lanes. He just misses the car right there that took a right-hand turn.
eastbound on Olympic. Eastbound on Olympic. He's accelerated to a high degree here, so the danger has increased quite a bit, Bruce.
Yeah, he's back on surface streets. He's back on the wrong side of the road. He's driving erratically and increasing speed. It's getting dangerous again, and I wouldn't be surprised if CHP at this point may back off into a tracking mode. But it's the watch commander's call, and if I was the watch commander, you do want to take this guy into custody, but public safety outweighs everything.
Right. You don't want innocent people to get hurt in this situation, and then you gotta wonder that the woman sitting next to him, when she kept opening that door when he was going a lot slower, if she's regretting not jumping out of the car at that point, because now it seems like she's stuck and there's nothing that she can do at this point.
Yeah, and like Dave Koontz was saying earlier, you've got a Honda Accord, very, very maneuverable vehicle, as we saw on the freeway, and how he weaves in and out of traffic. And the police cruisers are a lot heavier and a lot bigger vehicles and may not have that turning radius or that mobility, so that's another issue.
All right, so the CHP moving. Oh, no, is that Sheriff? Is Sheriff's on him now? Or is that still CHP?
CHP, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
They may try to pit him right now.
Yeah, they moved way in on him, and then he backed up, but they got right up parallel to his bumper, and then suddenly they pulled off. So they almost got there. They made an aggressive move, and it looked like it was going to happen. Probably speed was again, a concern. And there you saw a car going through the intersection, and then he just blatantly kept going. So,
the other thing that CHP may be doing is trying to get up there to have a good visual inside that vehicle to see what the female victim's doing. Her feet are on the dash. She seems very nonchalant about this.
Okay. All right. Yep. That's what we've been seeing for a long, long time. So let's see here. He seems to be up. He is driving more dangerously, weaving in and out of oncoming traffic, flying through traffic lights against the red light. That's okay. Michelle, remind me. He's on East Olympic in East Los Angeles.
So he's north of the Southgate area.
Okay, approaching Atlantic.
At this point, CHP is going to stay in pursuit of him.
Yeah. So he's approaching Atlantic Boulevard on East Olympic in East L.A. Again, a Honda Accord. Dave Koontz warned us that this vehicle could go for quite some time, although he has been really accelerating. We've been watching this pursuit for more than 2 hours now, and fuel may come to be an ally, or lack of it may come to be an ally eventually in this pursuit. We hope that he didn't have a full tank of gas. And just recently, we've seen a number of pursuits suddenly come to an end because they did run out of gas. So it does happen. Here we go. Let's see if he does this pit maneuver. Oh, and he's swerving into oncoming traffic, oncoming lanes. He saw it coming, dangerously moves into oncoming lanes. He gets away from it, but the CHP officer remains very close to his bumper. He's moving in again. Let's see if he does it. No, and he swerves into oncoming traffic again, and the CHP officer pulls back. But he got very, very close on that last one. But he seems to be really moving now at a very high rate of speed with other traffic in the area. So, Bruce, this guy, he knows what they're trying to do, and he's going to do everything in his power to not let them.
Yeah, that's what it appears. However, this is a perfect street to do it on, nice and wide. Yeah, you do have some parked vehicles, but the CHP is officer sending a message to this guy, hey, we're right here, we're right behind you, we're not going anywhere. So why don't you just pull over, buddy?
Boy, it is a remarkable skill to be able to do what these officers are doing. How do you practice a pit maneuver? I mean, do you actually do it in real life, and you pit cars?
Yeah, you actually do. When you went through the EVOC course, the sheriffs, we don't have the bumper CHP has, but they actually practice it on other patrol cars. And the idea is to get to the right rear quarter or left rear quarter of the vehicle, impact it right by the tire, spin it out of control, so you have to give the vehicle gas to spin it, and then hit the brake so that you're not entangled with the vehicle. But it is a hard maneuver to do because it's counterintuitive to crash into a car.
Yeah, it is kind of even maddening to watch. It's so stressful to watch. But I guess you have to do it enough to where you feel confident. You have to have some confidence to pull it off.
Yeah, you do, and they practice it. Just as in briefings, we talk about pursuit terminuses. So you have a pursuit, it's ended. How do we do it by the numbers? Or if you're in a pursuit, you practice pursuit. One of the things I used to do with my trainees was say, hey, we're in pursuit. I want you to call a pursuit, a mock pursuit.
He touched him.
Take a deep breath, decompress, give out the things that the watch commander needs.
Right, right. Wow. Okay, so we saw him, he touched that back bumper, and now he's really accelerating, but the CHP officer touched his back bumper. He bumped him pretty good. It didn't turn the car, but he did hit him. Clearly, yeah, it's putting some pressure on the suspect. Hopefully, it'll get him eventually to want to get out of this and give up.
Yeah, I think CHP is sending a message that, hey, we're going to end this, so why don't you end it first?
And keep in mind, he has a woman sitting next to him, and hopefully she's got the wits to beg him to stop doing this, and maybe with the pressure from both sides will get him to give up. But so far, as you can see, he's accelerating now, really moving, and it's not working so far.
No, I think CHP, they do have the green light for the pit maneuver. They're just waiting for the right time. And speed is a factor. The faster he goes, the pit maneuver comes out of play.
Okay. He is on eastbound Olympic, moving pretty good on eastbound Olympic. Montebello, I believe they are still in. Montebello takes a really aggressive left-hand turn into oncoming traffic, and then, or oncoming lanes, and then there, look at him. He is kind of like straddling that double yellow, staying in the left-hand turn lane, where you just don't know where he's going to go. There's a good shot of the woman sitting next to him, feet up. Actually, her arm is out the window, just kind of hanging on.
Yeah, you know, she doesn't seem to be a victim to this degree right now. I mean, I think earlier she was, but she seems a lot calmer, maybe, with her demeanor.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's kind of, it's so confusing, and this shows you the difficulty of what law enforcement has to deal with. So here we go, the CHP officer again moving very close, and then, as you can see, the driver blatantly moves into oncoming lanes, and there's an island now between them, and he is blatantly into oncoming lanes, but luckily so far, no cars were coming. And there's a car sitting out in the middle of the intersection. Perhaps that person saw what was happening and just stopped. But boy, that's where it gets really, really stressful. You know, there's a matter of almost no time to react if there's a car that comes out in the middle of the corner, he's looking one way and this guy's coming the other way.
Yeah, center median is an ideal area because the vehicle won't hopefully cross that into oncoming traffic. You want a nice wide street with this. And I wouldn't be surprised if CHP bumps his bumper again and sends a message.
Yeah, I mean, all of us, I think, are all rooting for the CHP to try to get this thing over with, I mean, safely. But it's so maddening to see this person on the street right now, putting so many lives in danger. So he is on westbound Beverly Boulevard now, Beverly Boulevard in Montebello.
Yeah. You know, David, what's interesting with social media, and I'm sure as you check it, people are actually telling the police to, hey, ram the vehicle, shoot the vehicle. Yeah. I mean, they don't want this to go on either. Yeah,
they want it over with. It is scary. And so many different things go through your mind of what could possibly happen at the end of this pursuit. So there he is. He's squeezing through on the right-hand lane, cars stacked up at that intersection. He finds an open lane. He squeezes his way through and flies through the intersection. CHP right behind him right now, but he is refusing to stop.
Yeah, you know, David, also, just to interject, police departments have what they call policies and procedures, chase and pursuit procedures. Suspects don't.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So there are no rules.
Yeah, and also civil liability. Who are they going to go back and look to sue if something were to happen? They're going to the police department, not the suspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
So that's when pursuit management comes into play, where the watch commander is asking for certain things: speed, conditions, traffic, nature of the crime, description of vehicle, direction of travel. All those things play into it.
Nature of the crime is an important one in this one because this guy is a domestic violence suspect, and the victim may be sitting right next to him. That's her arm, and those are her legs that you see there. We still don't fully know the story between these two. We're calling her a victim, But you're right, she may not be a victim, but it is a domestic violence suspect. They're going to pursue it as that, and therefore they have to have her well-being very much in their minds as they pursue this guy.
Yeah, very much so. And what you're chasing is you're chasing a felony. You're not chasing a misdemeanor. And also they're probably going to pile on the charges, possible kidnapping or false imprisonment in this case.
Okay, so when this does come to an end, obviously there's a lot of questions to ask on what the relationship is between these two. Was she a willing participant, or is she truly a victim? Is this a kidnapping? And it could very well be, and it could have started that way.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is she may not be a victim. She might be a suspect. And he is trying to maybe keep her safe. So we don't know. Like you say, there's a lot of variables and a lot of investigation to sort out.
Okay, so they are in East Los Angeles right now, moving about 40 miles per hour. Beverly, is this still Beverly Boulevard, Michelle? Yeah, westbound Beverly Boulevard in East Los Angeles right now, 40 miles per hour. I don't know if they've gone in a circle, but it does seem, though, that they found their way back to East L.A. Maybe they're heading back to where this all began again.
It's very, very possible. It seems like they are making some sort of circle, and it does appear they're southbound. So they may have negotiated something in the time that it took them to make this circle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Northbound Atlantic is where they are right now. As the sun is setting, lights are coming on. Bear with us as he clears this building. There he is. It is a four-door Honda sedan, older model, four-cylinder, front-wheel drive. It is a pretty remarkable vehicle when it comes to this pursuit. It had makes some tight turns. It has some acceleration. It's really hung in there, and it's been going for quite some time. Our hope is that he wasn't on a full tank of gas. So one way or another, we need this pursuit to come to an end. That's
it looks like they're over by the headed toward East Los Angeles College, I think.
I'm being told that they're in Monterey Park.
Okay, so they're real close by that area.
Wrong side of the road in Monterey Park. He squeezed through there yet again. He has done that dozens of times in this pursuit. Complete willingness to go into the oncoming lanes blatantly there, and remarkably, he's been extremely lucky that nobody's popped up and hit him or he's hit them.
And you know, the other thing too, David, is we talked about it earlier, the traffic. It seems like you and I, we have traffic all the time. Suspects, somehow they don't.
Yeah, we do make that point. It's the middle of rush hour. We'll sit there and go 1 mile an hour. Somehow suspects find a way to continue to move and not get bogged down and stuck like we do.
Yeah, he's over by the East Los Angeles College now, so, you know, school's not in session at this hour to the most part, so it looks like we're going to be okay, but you are in a residential area.
Okay, so that makes that heightens the danger. There will be pedestrians out. There will be cars unsuspecting here. There you see this pretty broad street that they're on right now, and if there wasn't traffic on it, this probably could be a candidate for a pit maneuver, but there seems to be a decent amount of traffic in this area.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You've got too many moving parts here, as they say, to really do a pit maneuver. Ideally, you want a wide open street with very minimal traffic.
Okay. So I'm sorry, is this still Atlantic, Michelle? Yeah, okay. Northbound Atlantic, Monterey Park? Okay. The Monterey Park, you said it was East LA College, Bruce?
Yeah, he's in that general area. I only know that because I recognize the streets, and I play baseball there on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, your connection to the community. So there he is, another example of him just kind of blatantly going into oncoming lanes. He just seems to hover quite often right in that middle left-hand turn lane, straddling the double yellow, so you don't really know where he's going to go, and he's more than willing to go into the oncoming lanes, especially when he was trying to get away, when the traffic was stacking up, and also when they were trying to pull a put maneuver on him. And as they got closer, he just blatantly went into those lanes, having complete disregard of the possibility of a car coming out of nowhere and having no reaction time. But so far, everybody's been lucky in this situation. He hasn't hit anybody. He has hit a fence. He dragged that with him. He has been up on the grass. He's been on the sidewalk a couple of times, a couple of close calls there. But so far, it doesn't appear that he's hit anybody outside of perhaps this passenger who's sitting right next to him. And let's see, you could still see her legs up there, Bruce.
Yeah, you know, David, as technology moves along, I really suspect in a couple of years we're going to see a way to disable vehicles safely, whether some sort of piton is fired from the patrol car that shorts the car out but not locks the steering. You have OnStar now, not to plug them, but they have the ability to shut the car down. So this technology is catching up, and I really believe we're going to see in the next couple of years pursuits come to an end.
Yeah, we've been hearing rumors about that. Boy, wouldn't that be great if they could just kill a car and make it just come to a stop and just end these pursuits, which you'd think in this day and age with our enormous amount of technology, we would do that more. That's interesting about OnStar, and I wonder if they've ever used that in other pursuits, but there may be some protocols still in place that you can't do that. I'm not sure yet, but that is certainly, that would make a good story for us to look into and try to figure out where we headed and how we deal with these pursuits to make them safer.
And actually, David, there was a pursuit where they did use OnStar to disable the vehicle. I believe it was a couple weeks ago, and I want to say it was in Texas. But they did do it, and it worked like a charm.
Wow. Okay, so that's a good case there that they can examine and see and use that as an example. That's a good one. Westbound Garvey in Alhambra, I'm being told is where they are. Westbound Garvey in Alhambra. Are they anywhere close to their home?
I don't think so. It looks like they're a little west, possibly, and north than where they are. It looks like the suspect, I don't know if his lights are on in the vehicle or he sustained some front-end damage when he went through that construction fence earlier. But that's another issue for law enforcement, too. If he's blacked out, driving on the wrong side of the road, that's a huge public safety issue.
Okay, so there's a good shot of the woman next to him. I'm trying to figure out, is it just the movement of the light, or is she moving around? I'm not sure. But it does appear that those are her legs that are up. There's her arms. They're moving around a little bit. We did get some shots of her texting. Oh, he doesn't make a crazy swerve right there. But yeah, as we continue to look into the car, when their windows are down like that, you can get a decent look at them. Although with the sun going down, we're not going to see a whole lot more of that without a real challenge. I guess when they put the spotlight on it, that might give us an opportunity to see what's going on in there. But you're right, she seems awfully relaxed.
Yeah, and the windows down are actually a plus for law enforcement because they can see into it. The tinted windows are a huge issue for law enforcement because you're walking on a vehicle, and like you said, you don't know if there's any weapons in the vehicle, too.
Right, and with a character that is capable of this kind of violence, then you have to, you got to play this expecting the worst. So there he is. He's on the wrong side of the road again. He's crossed over to the double yellow. And he's moving back right now, so he just keeps doing that, back and forth, back and forth. His speed isn't real high right now, so it looks like he might be trying to make a move.
And this is another good street to do this. It's wide open. It's no pedestrians. It seems like get up on them and hit them, and let's just end this.
Okay, that is the 710 freeway they just went under. So under the 710 freeway, in Monterey Park, I think they're still on Ramona Road. Yeah. Okay, so... And there he is continuing to do that same behavior, kind of staying right up against that double yellow in the middle of the road with, a complete willingness to go into oncoming traffic and oncoming lanes just like that. He just seems to straddle that thing, thinking that he can somehow evade the officers that are behind him, even though he's been doing this for the better part of 2 hours, and he's made no leeway.
Yeah, and actually, just interesting, he just passed Sheriff's headquarters. The old Sheriff's headquarters on Ramona.
Okay, and then, so speaking of sheriffs, the CHP remains on this, correct?
Correct. They're the primary agency on this. They are in communication via radio and mutual aid requests with the sheriffs as they come into the East LA area, just as they were with LAPD when they were headed toward downtown. And sheriffs are monitoring, and if they're asked to get involved, they will.
Okay, so East LA right now. He's winding through. I'm getting some instructions from my producer. So, Michelle, just tell me when you need that. And, okay, the 10 freeway right now. We're on the 10 freeway eastbound. So we are at 7:59, approaching 8 o'clock. And we're going to stay on this coverage on KDOC TV. So you don't turn the channel. You don't need to go anywhere. We're going to stay with this very dangerous pursuit that's been going on for 2.5 hours right now, perhaps more than that, on the 10 freeway, East LA, exiting at Ramona right now, exiting at Ramona. So we're at 8 o'clock on KDOC TV. And just to give you an idea, if you are tuning in for something else, this is extended coverage from Eyewitness News on KDOC TV as we continue to watch this very dangerous domestic violence suspect getting on, one more time, Michelle, the 710 northbound, 710 northbound. This suspect is in that Honda Accord. It's a 4-door, and he's wanted for felony domestic violence, and he has perhaps his victim in the car with him, sitting right next to him in the passenger seat. This pursuit has been going on for quite some time. His behavior has been extremely dangerous, very erratic. It's remarkable that they haven't hit anybody, but CHP is very close to them. They tried one pit maneuver. They tapped his back bumper. He accelerated. He has no qualms, no concerns about going into oncoming traffic. That would be on surface streets. He's at a freeway now. He's on the 710 northbound. Largely when he's been on the freeway, his behavior has been a lot better, especially freeways that don't have a lot of traffic. But here he is as we continue to watch. It looks like he might be, is he pulling over and is he exiting to the right? Let's continue to watch this. Maybe he's getting back on surface streets. And by the way, go ahead, Michelle. Okay.
David,
710 and
HD give us a,
go ahead, Bruce.
Calculation of speed. Well, he looks like he's getting off the freeway now.
Yeah, they said the 710 came to an end, so that was Valley
he's in
Boulevard.
The Pasadena area now.
Okay. Back on the 710 southbound. Okay, so he basically is just he's going in the other direction right now. So this is Bruce Thomas that we've been talking to for quite some time. Bruce, you've been invaluable in covering not just this pursuit but many other law enforcement issues. We thank you for being here with us today and helping us with that. So on the 710 southbound, and Michelle, correct me because I'm getting mixed up here, but I believe it's 710 southbound. So he is heading back on the freeway in Alhambra right now. And Bruce, they've got the what is it called, the sun gun on him?
The night sun from the
gun.
helicopter, which is a high illumination device which will light up the area. It not only does it illuminate the vehicle, but it also illuminates the area so the motorists know there's something coming up on them.
Okay, yeah, so that's very helpful, especially with night. You don't notice a lot of things. If you're just a driver out there, perhaps this will help warn people that something is coming their way. They'll see the bright lights. That is a Honda Accord. And boy, it would be a blessing if that thing would run out of gas. We have no idea how much gas he has, but he's been going for quite some time, accelerating, stopping, accelerating, stopping, and perhaps, hopefully, he's using a lot of gas and he didn't have a full tank.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going exactly back where he just came from at this point.
All right, so I'm getting more instructions here on what we're doing for programming, so we're going to stay with this for a few more minutes. The 710 southbound going through Alhambra right now, and we'll try to give you some idea on what we've been watching. So we've been on this pursuit since Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock, where we saw some really scary behavior from that suspect that's been driving this vehicle, literally screaming, yelling, maybe even fighting with the woman who was sitting next to him in the passenger seat. And we've been watching her as well. They did seem to be in some sort of a confrontation. Then things started to settle down a bit. She had her legs up on the dash. They'd been there for the better part of 2 hours, and there's a lot of concern about her safety. But then we were able to grab a shot as they went by Air 7, and we grabbed the shot of her actually with both her hands on her phone texting. So we know at least she's moving around. She's got her phone with her. She seems to be okay. We did notice when they got to Southgate, which is where this whole thing began, in Southgate, as they got closer to an area that they were familiar with, the passenger side door kept opening. And bear with us as we continue to figure out the signal issue. They're just on the move so much that sometimes there are signal issues, but it's back now. That's a live picture that you're watching. And Bruce, I can't tell. Are the lights off on that car?
I think the vehicle sustained some front end damage, so it looks like there's only one headlight, but the rear lights may be non-functional at this point also.
Okay. So it is not very illuminated. It's pretty dark right now, but that we're keeping it in the middle of the screen. That is the Honda Accord that we're talking about, that is kind of flying through those left lanes past the regular traffic. Eastbound 60 is where they are right now. Eastbound 60.
You know, David, also you wonder if maybe some substances are involved in this.
Yeah.
Maybe she's under the influence of alcohol. He may be also, and that makes them a little more brazen.
Let's face it, Bruce, and you know this better than anybody, most of these situations do involve some kind of illegal substance or alcohol.
Yeah, unfortunately, domestic violence calls usually do involve alcohol, and people, we call it the macho juice.
Uh-huh. Wow. Okay, what is that?
Well, it basically makes people a little more brazen, a little more, puff up their chest, so to speak. Alcohol does one of two things. It makes you smart or stupid.
That's true. So there he is. You can see those brakes, but yeah, from the back end, his tail lights are not on. And then, we haven't been able to see quite from the front end, but he's very dark in there. Luckily, the helicopter overhead is illuminating him, so there's a little bit of a warning for folks. Plus, they have the CHP vehicles behind them. There you see them with their lights on. So he seems to be staying in that left lane, and I don't know if that's a shoulder as well. Is that the shoulder, or is that a legit lane? I'm not sure.
It looks like it's an emergency shoulder area from what I can see.
Okay.
He's using that maybe to just weave in and out of traffic at this point.
Right. Okay, so eastbound 60 is where they are right now, as this domestic violence suspect continues to try to evade law enforcement, but CHP has been right on him. They even attempted a pit maneuver and got very close to a couple of others. But this guy is refusing to give up. And it looked promising at one point, where this started at Southgate. It went for a couple of hours. He wound his way all the way back to Southgate. It started slowing down. The passenger side door started opening and closing, opening and closing. It looked like they were going to give up. And then they didn't. Then they...
David, we just saw the vehicle weave a little bit. So I know there was some left front end damage, as Air 7 HD showed. Maybe that is having an impact on the vehicle.
Okay, so maybe that he's having a hard time keeping it going, keeping it straight at least, and having to make some abrupt adjustments on the vehicle.
Yeah, David, the other thing, too, is CHP is requesting assets, because one of the things you have to deal with is the pursuit terminus, the end of the pursuit, as we call it. And so they're probably asking for canine to be in the area, make sure they have enough manpower to take the suspect into custody, and also safeguard the victim's safety, too. So time is a good thing for CHP at this point.
Okay, so assets, they're asking for assets. What about a SWAT team? Who does that come from?
They would probably ask for the sheriff's SWAT under mutual aid or Special Enforcement Bureau at this point, as they're in the area of that. They probably have put them on notice or standby, but at this point they haven't made that request yet, unless this ends and it turns into some sort of barricade.
Okay. All right. So, but at least, it shows you law enforcement, they know what they're doing. They're thinking ahead. They're planning for the end of this. And when it does come to an end, and it will eventually, they want to have everything available to them to make it end as peaceful as possible, but prepared for any scenario. Yeah,
and that's what briefings are for. You talk to your troops, your men and women, and you say, okay, let me throw a scenario out. What would you do? You kind of round table it. And at the end of every incident like that, they do what's called a hot wash or a tactical debriefing. What did we have done better? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Okay. So what I understand, they're at 90 miles per hour. They're really moving right now. Here's what we're going to do. We're gonna jump off of the air on KDOC TV in a matter of a few seconds. We're gonna move over to ABC7 Digital. So if you watch us on abc7.com or ABC7LA on our app, we're going to bring this pursuit over to them. And of course, we'll be back with everything that happened in this pursuit and hopefully some answers to some questions on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock tonight. We're going to keep you posted, though, throughout the night. And yes, he does seem to have some maneuvering issues there. Bruce Thomas has been helping us out. Bruce, thank you so much. If you stay with us, that's great. If not,
I really appreciate your help. We're going to jump off on KDOC TV. Thank you for joining us. Pop over to abc7.com. I'm David Ono coming to you. I am live in the studio here at ABC7 as ABC7, our Air 7 is overhead. We've been watching this pursuit for more than 2.5 hours now, and it continues to go. And a very dangerous pursuit at that. A domestic violence suspect inside that vehicle, but what complicates it is the fact that he has his victim with him. Early on in this pursuit, a lot of fighting and a lot of arguing, a lot of concern about her well-being inside that vehicle, but it also creates a lot of complication on how law enforcement has to deal with this high-speed pursuit. We've been watching some indications that there's some dissension between the two. She looked like she was going to try to jump out of the vehicle a couple of times. It started in Southgate. They wound their way back to Southgate. We thought it was going to come to an end, but it didn't. Immediately after, he seemed to have changed his mind, accelerated, got out of there, continued to wind his way through various other areas, and it seemed like they got into another argument. But she's been sitting in that car. Her feet are up against the dash. They've been there for quite some time. We did see a shot of her texting on her cell phone. So we know that she's largely okay. We don't know if she wants to be there or not. Bear with me for 1 second. We're going to do an anchor change. I'm standing with Eyewitness News anchor Mark Brown, so we're going to do a little shift. My voice is almost gone. Mark, welcome. And Bruce, by the way, is still on the air with us.
Excellent. All right, David, thank you. Great work here. Everybody's got this throat problem this week, so it's going to be tough for us to deal with this thing. These Hondas have tremendous mileage ability, so thank you for your reporting on this and keeping us up to date throughout this pursuit. Bruce, are you there with us?
Yes, I am, Mark.
All right, glad to have you with us as well as we watch this thing continue to wind its way. Now on the freeway. It's been on surface streets at various times. Now it's on the freeway as well. Eastbound on the 60 freeway at a very high rate of speed, as you can see. When a pursuit lasts this long, Bruce, when you start getting into what is now the third hour, how do officers stay on point? How do they stay tuned into this and not allow their minds to drift? There's a lot of concentration that's involved here, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And the nice thing about this is in a pursuit, you have multi-vehicles. The lead vehicle is not calling the pursuit. They're just visually following. The person calling the pursuit is possibly the second or third vehicle, and in this case, the helicopter may be calling the pursuit. So basically, I hate to say it, but it's almost like a leisurely drive. They're just focusing on the actions of the vehicle and not worrying about speed, traffic conditions, direction of travel, all those stressful informational points that the watch commander wants. And also, they're changing out. So you're not going to see the same CHP vehicle in pursuit for probably more than 30 minutes.
Okay. Something that obviously puts law enforcement at the advantage over the pursuit suspect, that they have many more vehicles, they've got radios, they've got overhead air support and all of that stuff, plus the training that's involved in dealing with these things, which puts them head and shoulders above the suspect in terms of the ability to deal with what's happening. It's still up to the suspect,
though. The state of California Post, Peace Officer Standard and Training, mandates pursuit training every year. So the officers go through refresher training at EVOC, such as David went through, but also there are exams, quizzes, videos, and roundtable discussions on this to certify them as patrol pursuit trained.
Right. And is that a fairly new phenomenon, or has that been around for a while?
No, it's been around for a while as far as the Peace Officer Standard and Training protocols, but we're seeing more and more officers being run through the EVOC, the Emergency Vehicle Operations Center, to get more hands-on experience.
Well, it certainly pays off, as we are seeing. Nobody's been hurt that we know of. Any sorts of accidents have been kept to a minimum. There's a lot of decision-making that has to be involved in this, of course. about whether or when to back off of a pursuit. This is not one that you can back off of, though, is there? Because you've got a victim in that car.
Yeah, you're right. And you don't know if the victim is willing or unwilling, but in this case, they're going to follow this pursuit, and it's been going on now for 3 hours. And we're going to see it till an end because they do want to safeguard the victim's life.
Right. And this is now, it's on the 60 freeway passing Azusa now. So just continuing for a long period here. It was kind of, you know, when I was covering this earlier in the evening about, 2.5 hours ago, it was kind of in the Southgate area, Bellflower, Long Beach, kind of circling that area, and then he kind of branched out. And
yeah, we're moving further and further east through L.A. County. I don't know the rhyme or reason for this, but it seems like he's definitely headed away from the area he came from.
And it could be maybe just that traffic conditions are kind of allowing him to go which way he's going. And now at 8:15 at night, traffic becomes less of a factor. You're going to find fewer roads that are packed with cars, fewer freeways that are packed with cars. He's coming up on another law enforcement vehicle that maybe just kind of happened to be in the area. It doesn't look like this was part of the pursuit, right? That is not a CHP vehicle, correct? That is some other agency. CHP, if I'm correct, has one door painted white. This one has two.
Yeah, it looks like that's a sheriff's vehicle.
It's a sheriff's patrol vehicle.
The officer's the end of his shift headed home.
Yeah, right. I mean, he just happens to be on that freeway. The guy just drove past him.
Yeah, obviously that sheriff's not going to get involved because he has not been requested to get involved, and I'm sure that's the last thing you want to do is interfere with another agency.
Especially at the end of your shift.
Yeah, you know, paperwork is paperwork and overtime is overtime. It comes with the job.
Yeah. I'm being told he was going 95 miles an hour. He's getting off the freeway here, and they're going to tell me what the off-ramp is, and we'll find out where he's going. He's at Nogales, the Nogales exit off of the eastbound 60. Whoa, he really ran through there and came very close to a couple of vehicles that were just traveling. He made that very hazardous right turn. He has outdistanced his pursuers a little bit here. I don't see a car immediately behind him. I don't see a patrol vehicle or a CHP vehicle immediately behind him. He's now gone through an intersection, blown through a red light. This is on Nogales, just off the 60 freeway, heading through the surface streets there. I wonder if he's going to try to do a foot bail here since he's put a little bit of distance between himself and his pursuers, although very clear to see, not between himself and the pursuing law enforcement helicopter.
Yeah, he's back in sheriff territory, so I'm sure they've been on the radio putting Walnut Station.
Okay, he's bailed out of the car. He's bailed out. And there's a pursuing law enforcement vehicle. This is some sort of a business here. We don't know what it is. We're going to circle around, see if we can get to find out what it is that he's trying to run into and if he made it inside. This big building here, this is a parking lot, some sort of a business. It could be a grocery store. It's a 99-cent store, I'm being told in my ear, in the city of Industry. A 99-cent store. He got out, he pulled into a parking space, ran in. Look at all the people running out of the building now. Look at all those people running out of that 99-cent store. Being told, I'm sure the officer went in and said, everybody get down or everybody get out. What do you do? When you're in that situation, your suspect is running into a clearly occupied building like that. What are the things you say?
Yeah, now this thing has just been amped up to another higher level. He's run into a store. There are innocent people in that store. We could have a hostage situation. Now, the suspect seemed to put on more clothing than what he had earlier. So hopefully they got a good description of the suspect. And they're going to have to clear that 99-cent store. So they're now asking for sheriff's assets to get in that area, possible the Special Enforcement Bureau also.
This is amazing. People running out of that store. They've got kids with them, carrying their children, running out of there. You've got sheriff's deputies there, or CHP. These are CHP officers, I believe, here next to this unit, with their weapons drawn, saying to people, get out of the store. They've got to set up a perimeter here. They've got to get, they've got to have somebody around the back because. Yeah,
Mark, it looks like they've got a good perimeter set up. They've got units to the rear of the possible loading dock. You've got officers in the front. But at some point, they're going to have to go in and clear this store. And CHP is going to ask for additional assets to do that.
No sign of the woman passenger, by the way. He pulled into that parking space a minute ago. And, in fact, I think that's not it. It's one of those. It's not. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it is. I think it is kind of obscured by the palm tree. He pulled into the parking space. and then ran into the store. We don't know what happened to the passenger, whether she is still with the car. Okay,
Yeah.
police are, we're now getting a report that officers have one person at gunpoint inside the store. We are hoping and assuming that that is the suspect, that they have him at least contained and under, if not handcuff sort of control, at least he's not going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. So we're going to hopefully find out within a couple of minutes whether they've got him. And of course, they will bring him out of the store, and that will be the end of that. We do not know what the woman did. The woman who was riding with him in the car, the passenger, who he was reportedly beating during the pursuit. He was tussling with this woman during the pursuit. At various times she was texting, it appears. She had her feet up on the dash at one point. At several points, though, it appeared he was in some way physically assaulting her. And of course, this is a domestic violence suspect and situation.
Yeah, you know, Mark, I wouldn't be surprised if Air 7 HD could go back to the vehicle that he pulled into the spot if that woman is still just sitting in the car.
Yep, which would indicate that, hopefully she's okay. It looks like the passenger door is open. Let's assume, the stun gun is on that vehicle right now. Yeah, there she is. She is still sitting in there, leaning out. No officers are near her at this point. She is basically alone down there by herself. No one has arrived yet to assist her. They're concentrating at this point on the suspect, on this person who was and is a danger both to her and to the public.
You know, Mark, if Air 7 HD can go back up to the front entrance, I think we see CHP personnel coming out. So it may appear, based on their posture, that they have a suspect in custody and they're bringing him out shortly.
Okay, let's hope that's the case. Now they're coming over to check on the status of the woman, of the victim in all of this, the woman who was riding in the car with this individual, apparently, according to reports, being attacked while she was riding with him. Officers do need to approach the vehicle with caution, as you know. You don't just assume. You can assume nothing. You have to, especially even sometimes with domestic violence situations, officers respond to those and end up in a very violent situation, sometimes inexplicably.
Yeah, you know, your victim becomes your suspect philosophy. It looks like they do have the suspect in custody. It looks like they have put a code 4 out, and this thing comes to a peaceful ending.
Well, it sounds like it. Yeah, we just heard the suspect is in custody inside the store, and they should be bringing him out in a couple of minutes. I believe we have a ground crew on the way there to try to find out as much information as they can about this. But there now, officers are assisting the woman. I believe those are sheriff's deputies right next to the car, and then some CHP officers off to the front of it. You see the different law enforcement agencies now parked in front of the store. This is a 99-cent store. Again, it's in the City of Industry. And is that your suspect right there? Can we zoom in tighter?
Yeah, the suspect did put on some additional clothing as he was bare-chested before, but now he put on a long black sleeve shirt.
Yep, didn't work.
Nope. It never does, Mark.
It never does. The one we saw one. I don't know if you were with me a few. It was several months ago, probably about 6 months ago, and a guy who was being pursued he stopped right at a freeway overpass or over. I think it was over the LA River, and he stopped, hopped over the fence and went to a homeless encampment under there, and gave somebody else his clothes. And
yeah,
the guy,
that,
right.
Yeah.
And the guy came walking out. Like, I don't know what's going on, and they ended up they found that guy too. I mean, they try all kinds of tactics. That is one that doesn't work.
Yeah, Mark, as you know, and we've talked numerous times, the percentage of the suspect getting away is very minimal.
Okay, we have a troubling update now to this incident, and that is that the woman is breathing, but she is unresponsive. Breathing, but unresponsive, unconscious at this point. We do not know what sort of injury, if any, she has or what might be going on with her. But according to reports we're getting from the scene, she is unresponsive. That is very troubling.
A substance abuse issue may have raised its head, maybe alcohol in this case, and maybe she just passed out.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. Now, this is how the pursuit ended, he pulled into that parking space, took off running inside the 99-cent store with a CHP officer in hot pursuit there, as you saw. Pulled into that space, and within about 5 to 7 minutes or so, he was in custody, but not before a bunch of people came running out of that store, some carrying their children with them, watching while highway patrol officers and other law enforcement officers went in after that suspect, presumably with guns drawn, looking for him, and one can presume barking out orders and or warnings to people to get out of the area and the like. So that's what happened. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
If I can interject something, there's a thing and actually a crime called domestic terrorism. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the definition, a bank robber who runs into a bank and causes people grief could be charged under that. And so the fact that he runs into a store filled with people and possibly holds them hostage to just a little bit, disrupts that, that's something that maybe the district attorney is going to be looking